The hunt for Juliet is on. After losing her without a trace, Bernard and Sims spend every resource at their disposal to find the threat to the silo. Evading the forces that are in control, Juliet receives a special message from George and uncovers the reason Allison Becker went outside, buried deep inside the hard drive. Welcome to Road Goes Ever On and On. Today, Sterling and I are talking about the 9th episode of the exciting science fiction show, Silo. So spoilers ahead. And you don't need all of the resources of the Silo to figure out where our podcast is. Just hit that like and subscribe button and turn on that bell for notifications, and we'll show up in your feed. And with that, Sterling, do you have a mug this week?
I don't. I'm going to go with the story that Judicial took it away, and that's why I don't have it. And it's not going to be that I wasn't creative enough or didn't have enough time to come up with something. I definitely made it. It was a banger. There are going to be people that are going to say, "Why couldn't you recreate it?" Because I'm pretty sure they'd send me out to clean next time.
I heard they took all your mugs on my radio.
They took all my mugs.
They confiscated all of them. So I believe you. And if anybody is a hater, then you tell us in the comments that you're mad, and hopefully Judicial will see them and get us our mugs back.
Or if you actually have an idea for what this week's mug should have been, feel free to come up with something. Sorry about not dropping the ball on it, but having it stolen from me. Speaking of Judicial and maybe the possible kind of true head of it, let's chat a little bit about Bernard.
Okay.
He may be the baddie, and who knows, he may not be. But I don't think he knows everything. I don't even necessarily know if he's on, at the top. Just my thoughts.
I think he's a founder.
Okay.
I think he's one of the founders, and I believe this because of... So originally we thought Sims, he might not be a baddie. We kind of thought Sims was in control of everything.
Yep.
I still feel like he's not a baddie, but I do feel like Bernard is the baddie. And all with that keychain that had the number 18 on it that was vibrating.
Here's the thing about the keychain. He didn't do anything about that right away.
That we saw.
That we saw.
Because he picked up the keychain right away like it was buzzing, like trying to notify him.
But it wasn't until past, I think, halfway in the episode when he is talking to Lucas, and he gets out of Lucas that the hard drive that she had the number 18 on, like the serial number 18. That's when he did something about it. And here's the thing that's weird for me. Why did that light up? She didn't have it plugged into anything at that moment.
Why did what light up?
Why did that little trinket, like a little keychain with the number 18 on it?
Because I feel like it's a notification thing. It's the who's ever in control of the silos, and I think 18 is a reference to the number of which silo it is. That's my theory. And why the hard drive? Because so this hard drive, they were looking for the hard drive and they didn't really get eyes on it, so they might not have known which hard drive it was, or if this was the number 18 hard drive that goes to this specific silo and has all the information that is downloaded from the past on this hard drive, until he confirmed it with Lucas, and that was when he was like, okay, this is the hard drive we need right now. Like, this is dangerous.
I'm still, so the part that's still a little confused, at least that makes me feel like he is not the person on top, is I don't know how the notification happened, because it wasn't plugged in, because that was my first thought, was like, you plug it in and there's some kind of program that recognizes it and then sends a notification to that and alerts. But it wasn't plugged in, I'm pretty sure. Because she had just jumped over the side, was the last thing we saw.
Oh, I see. But I think that's somebody from the top that's like trying to get a hold of Bernard through a
Okay,
notification.
yes.
I don't think that had anything to do with the hard drive, except that the hard drive is related to the silo being Silo 18. That's my theory.
Okay. I can get behind that. I like that idea because it it seemed like if that was directly related, like if the keychain was directly related to the hard drive versus like the keychain is related to the silo is related to the hard drive, and that's how they're like connected. That makes a little bit more sense because I was just wondering why would he get this notification, but then he does. I mean, we didn't see what he did next, but he didn't ask somebody to track down this hard drive until Lucas said it. So it definitely didn't seem like it was directly connected to the hard drive. So
Right.
that's I like that connection. That makes sense why he wouldn't act on that immediately.
Yeah, I think that keychain is just like who's ever above Bernard
Yeah.
outside the silo or controlling the silos. That's their way to contact Bernard. And so when he got that like notification, he sent Sims off to go do whatever, and then he was gonna go talk to them, and then yeah, that's But another thing about Bernard in general with this is he does seem more guarded than like Sims, because he was talking about like having Sims be his shadow, and he's been reluctantly like not having anybody be his shadow even though he's getting older, and at any moment could have a heart attack, God forbid, but he didn't
Founders
start
founders forbid.
founders forbid.
Founders forbid. Or he could get the syndrome, like who knows? Founders forbid. Anything could happen to him as he's getting older.
Okay, also I have a quick question about the founders real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so when Paul looked at the pact, it said the founders and the citizens of the silo. So in the rebellion, wasn't everything destroyed 140 years ago? Like all records, all documents.
That's
Like,
certainly what they claimed, yeah.
so then how could the founders write the pact and the pact not get destroyed?
I assume that was like after the rebellion was squashed. That's the founders emerged and came together to write the pact as like this is how we will. So I don't think the pact was something that they claim came before the rebellion.
Because, see, I thought I had always understood it that the founders were the people that built the silo.
Mm.
So that's where I have a little bit of confusion. Like, is it... And maybe this is, something we find out later, but I thought
Right.
the founders built the silo, all the records were destroyed 144 years ago, but yet the founders wrote the pact. And maybe the pact just survived 140 years? I don't know.
I don't know. But the show keeps stuff like really, really close to its chest. I feel like we had a lot on Sims.
Yes. And
Well, and his family. Like,
Yes.
The Sims is...
The Sims is... doo, 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 doo. So, couple things I noticed.
Yep.
They had actual pictures in their house.
I did not know... Oh, that goes into some things I was thinking.
Okay, let me lay it on me.
Please. Yeah, so I think that Sims might be portraying one thing but doing something very different because he has this heart-to-heart with Dr. Nichols. And Dr. Nichols says, what would you do if this was your kid? And Sim says no one person is above the good of the silo. Like, he makes it clear he would give up anybody for the silo. But when shit's hitting the fan, he does send an escort to his family before he starts the fix, which to me says that what he says versus what he does are two different things. And I think he is playing this character of, for the good of the silo, I'll do anything, including potentially murder. But I don't know if that's the case.
Well, and then his wife said something to him. And I don't know if you caught this.
Yes.
We have one goal, one ambition, and we won't lose sight of that. What is the goal?
In fact, unlike Paul and his wife, who are actually having tensions because Paul is breaking rules and putting their family at risk, and you know, like, we're seeing that the Simses are making conflicting decisions, and they're okay with it, and they're just talking about it. They're like, okay, let's like recalibrate.
Right.
It definitely seems like they are, you know, like, so Camille, she lets Juliet go, and Robert doesn't seem pissed about. I mean, he definitely is like, why would you do that? And then he kind of relents. And then Robert, you know, releases the fact that he is not being considered potentially as a shadow. And instead of her being really upset, she's like, tell me exactly what he said.
Right.
He wants to. So it does seem like they have a plan going on, and they are very much of the same mind. Even if they sometimes have to, like, make decisions on their own that the other person may not immediately agree with because they don't have all the information, it does seem like they're very much on the same page. And Camille seems as questioning of some of the things in the silo. Like, she was a raider for 8 years.
12 years.
She doesn't raiders 12 years. She doesn't want raiders in her home.
Yeah. She knows about the nightmares. Like, if you are having nightmares, what gave you nightmares? So I'm assuming that if she knew about her nightmares, then Camille has nightmares as well.
There's
now
definite stuff going on, and that makes me think that they may be working to, like, take that position of, you know, like, Bernard's position to be the one considered for it, so that they can fix the system from the inside or find out what's going on, or, like, there's definitely, it feels like there's backstory that needs to be told with this family.
And she went to IT, which, in a way, like, she could have had, you know, she could have gone from being a raider to anything else, but she went to IT to be closer to Bernard, who is the lead of IT, as well as we've seen people in IT being able to hack these systems a little bit better and get more information. I'm excited to see where Camille's story will go.
I have a feeling that will be fleshed out next season.
I did too.
That they've just given this nugget that some people may not even necessarily pick up on. Because I definitely picked up on, like, the one goal thing, but it was like, I don't know, what all that does that mean? But, like, how nonchalant they were about each other's decisions, and instead of, like, really getting angry, like Paul's wife, of, like, what kind of peril are you putting us in? It's like, okay, let's regroup. What's the information you have? Here's the information I have. Let's figure out what our plan is going forward. There's some stuff going on here.
There definitely is, and I still think that I do believe Sims might be a good guy. Like, I think deep down he's a good guy, and I don't think I do think he cares about his family more than the silo, which is like the first time we've ever seen that. Like, he has been silo first from the beginning. So I'm excited to see his either redemption or heroic
Here,
action.
here's like an interesting difference between him and Bernard. So I definitely think that that Sims can be extremely intimidating, and so I'm not saying that he doesn't do things to scare the shit out of people, because he does. We talked about that in the last episode. He can be very intimidating, but it is, to me, it's kind of like an ends justify the means. It's not for the sake of being cruel. Versus, kind of an interesting difference was when Bernard outed himself in the cornfield. To me, that was a little bit of a cruel moment, because in his mind, he's already captured Juliet, right? Like, he's already got raider forces all around Juliet, and then he does this kind of mean, like, oops, I shouldn't know that. I shouldn't have said that yet. Which is just, you already got what you wanted. You don't need to, like, play with the toy that you have in front of you. Versus, like, I feel like Sims might do some mean things to get something from somebody, but he's not going to toy with them after he's got it.
And I don't really think I've seen Sims, like, express anger. Like, he has expressed frustration. Maybe the most angry he has been is when the one guy brought back, like, the stapler, and he threw the stapler. Like, that was maybe the angriest he's been. But watching Bernard as he was questioning Lucas and slamming on the table, and, like, you really saw this different side of him that it seems like this more evil, cruel person.
Yeah. So to me, like, that is the difference. Is I feel like I've seen cruelty with Bernard at this point, versus Sims, I think, has had to do some necessary evils.
I don't know.
So I think that kind of takes us into some of the shifting dynamics with this. I think at this point, it seems potential. Who knows? Things could change. Like, Bernard is this one direction. Sims seems to be very much shifting for me.
Same.
And I feel like Paul is making some big shifts for me.
Yeah, he's definitely taking on a bit of Juliet by, bending the rules of the pack to do investigations that are not sanctioned by judicial.
I think he's outright breaking rules.
Right. Which is so against Paul. Like, he would never do that.
And it's against his wife. Like, his wife wants him to settle down and do something that won't get him in trouble. And I think he has this, like, drive for truth that is outweighing, things that he can tell are wrong with what he's been told.
Right.
Like, why should somebody in the sheriff's office be prevented from visiting this crime scene if it will answer important questions?
Especially when it's in the pact that the acting sheriff investigates anybody that wants to go outside. And yet he is barred from it.
So he can tell that there are things that are wrong, and he may have to abuse the system in order to deal with that. And this is, for me, a pretty big moment.
Yeah.
I'm curious about his reaction to the book, because it seemed different from some of the other ones we've seen. I don't feel like we've seen other people be brought to tears.
Well, I do. The reason I think Paul had such a strong reaction is because,
Hmm.
like if you like, I don't feel like Juliet ever followed the pact. So when she saw this, she was like, "Oh, okay, this seems like they're hiding stuff from us." Where Paul Billings is like, the pact is his Bible. He's
Hmm.
won the pact reading competition 4 years in a row. He follows it to the T. He knows every ins and outs of it. And then he sees this relic that he's been told that is like this bad thing to know, and he just starts getting this whole other reality revealed to him, and like that's probably earth-shattering to him.
There was so for me, and I can definitely see that as it being the case, but it also he obviously didn't want to be caught with this relic because that could be the end of him, which would not be good for his family and so good for his kid. So he rips out a page, which is much easier to hide. But I also kind of feel like, what if that page was the pivotal thing? What if there is something that he recognized, like a picture or statue of a family member or something like that, where there was something that clearly seemed like it shouldn't be right with everything that he's been taught before. Because it
Hmm.
to me it's not out of the normal to think that, yeah, that's the way things were at some point, but now we're underground. Like, it seemed like there was something really impactful.
So, do you think we've seen the page that he's already taken out? Like, because we did see many pages as Juliet flipped through it.
We have.
So, do you think we've seen the page, or it's going to be a completely new page?
I think it's a completely new page. This show is like keeps its stuff so tight to its chest that I don't think there are those. It doesn't accidentally reveal something before it wants to.
That's that's fair. I feel like because I was trying to think of like what page it could be of the pages we've seen, and
Yeah,
I didn't know if like the Nautilus shell, because we've seen the Nautilus shell theme,
yeah,
throughout this, you know, thing. George got it tattooed on him. Like these,
right,
I don't know if that had some impact on him, or if it was like the stars, because the stars have been a big, you know, conversational topic throughout, with Lucas and
right,
Juliet.
yeah.
So, and then of course the dolphin trainer inside of me said he took the dolphin training page
Oh,
because
of course.
he was like, look at this right here. This is a dolphin. This looks alien. I have to show everybody. But
Yeah,
I could be one that we haven't seen.
yeah. I feel like he recognizes somebody, or he like sees his family name, or something along those lines. But like, here's the wild thing: is that's a kid's book, and it is considered so dangerous.
Right. Because
You know,
knowledge
like
knowledge is
how
power.
knowledge is power. How can something so it, the kind of information isn't even deep information because you can't go in too deep. You'll get over their heads. So it's very surface level stuff. It is wild that is what is so dangerous in this world.
I did think it was interesting that he burnt the rest of the artifact because it set off smoke alarms, which it's going to show that somebody went in there. And I mean, maybe they think that he's too much of a rule follower to suspect him, and I don't know how good their
Right.
fingerprinting is if they've got, a way to dust for fingerprints, but I thought that was a little bit of a risk by him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that technology is that great in the silo. So I think he knows that would have been okay, even if people went in there. I think he, or maybe he was worried about, even if he like threw away that book, that his fingerprints being on it
True.
might be traced back to him. Maybe he knows about that. It's really tough to know like what all can they do in this world when you are limiting yourself to not being able to magnify past a certain point.
You're right. And also with like the, the level of their technology and like kind of how they like lie about their technology with, the way when Lucas saw the camera and Bernard lied to him about how it's an air quality control device.
Right.
And so like somebody like Lucas, who's probably never seen a camera, never seen a sensor, like that could easily be, swept under the rug as just an air quality device.
Okay, that was an interesting scene to me because it like he both was tipping his hand about all, like Bernard was tipping his hand about all the information he knew. Because he was making it clear they knew a lot about what happened there. But then holding back on the truth of how he got it. Which, like, to a certain extent, I guess maybe by not being explicit about it, Lucas can still believe that there are literal listeners, like people whose job it is to, like, listen through walls.
Right, because he said it was hard to hear through the water.
Right. But that was really interesting that it's like, I don't know, some of the things that he said seemed like things that you would only know if you had a visual.
Right. But she did put the rug over the blanket over the glass.
But yeah.
Until she broke it. So, man, I don't either.
I don't know. So another one of the kind of shifting dynamics, we saw George. I definitely thought that was interesting and poignant that he did plan on using Juliet, which was something that hurt her, but that in the end he actually ended up loving her.
Yeah. I did like that was a little bit of closure for Juliet, because she just, she's been searching for George and like how George got killed, why George got killed. She goes to Regina, and Regina is basically like, he used me to get relics, he probably used you too. And he even admits that, yeah, I used you. And then admits that he also fell in love, and that like she made the silo the shittiest place in the world the best place in the world because of her. Ugh.
Right.
Well, and it was also nice that we heard about the water, and he mentioned like how they thought the water was a problem. And
yes.
He said, turns out, not a problem. We can swim. We're buoyant.
And I think the fact that she found out that even though his original intention was to use her, in the end, he actually ended up loving her, might help her to get her conviction back, to fight for him, and to possibly push past her fear and deal with that water. So it's like this may give her the necessary push to do whatever last thing is required of her.
And if anyone can open that door, it's Juliet.
Yes. It was just getting past that fear, and this may be the thing that helps tip her hand.
It is going to be hard for her to get where she is now, all the way down to the down deep. She's got a lot of floors to travel down.
Yeah, she has a lot of floors. She's on 17?
Well,
she was on 17 when she was with
his family.
With Camille, yes.
Yeah. But I do think that Patrick Kennedy, if I remember correctly, he was around like 20s-ish. So she's got to go all the way down.
She's got a ways to go. Yeah. Last but not least, kind of some odds and ends that I wanted to sprinkle in here. I wanted to go back to something I mentioned very early on. We saw the recording again. The what is it? Harmony
Oh,
something cleaning.
Jane Carmody. I think
Jane
Jane.
Carmody cleaning.
Yes.
We saw the Jane Carmody cleaning. Those birds look like the same birds.
Yes.
So it's like it's a I know that all like most birds travel in the V, so don't don't hit me in the comments about the fact that they're all in a V and all of them, do that naturally. There are two birds on the right tail end that break away, that when we see them long enough, we see them like moving upwards. But we see that like breakaway from two birds on the bottom right hand side in every single one of the times we see them. We don't necessarily see it for like the full amount, and we do see it at like slightly different points, so it's hard to verify that 100% this is the exact same thing, but they merge from pretty much the same place. They go in this pretty much the same direction, and the same two friggin' birds start breaking the V formation in every single time. Maybe they didn't have enough money to like do a bunch of bird shots, and they kept reusing that thing, thinking that people wouldn't notice. But I think there's something to it.
Well, I agree, because here's where my question comes from, right?
Okay. Yep.
They have the video of her going out to clean, her visual of what she's seeing, and her recording of her voice of how she's reacting to it.
It's not the visual from the sensor.
Correct. It's the visual from her perspective.
From her perspective.
And Holston Becker had the same reaction she did when he went outside. So her reaction was, she sees it, we have to show them through the sensor. But it was her witnessing, it was what she was witnessing. And we know that the sensors in the cafeteria can project a beautiful scene. Because we saw it when the generator shut down, there was the brief flash of it.
Yep.
I don't even know, and then we don't know what Holston Becker saw after he pulled off his helmet. So we don't know if the visors are projecting the beautiful scene.
I'm gonna go crazy direction and say that the truth may be neither of those, and that both what is being shown to people to make them not want to go outside, and then the thing that is shown to people who are outside to make them want to clean the sensors, both of those are fake. And there is a completely different third situation, which is the truth.
And what is it?
It doesn't involve a tree in kind of like the rightish corner and birds emerging every time. Like alive or dead, it doesn't involve that tree and the other things we see. There is something completely different going on.
So when the sensor in the cafeteria shows the people going outside, is that something that is just created? Do you think it's actually what they see?
I think it is based off of. I think it's easier to like create a fiction that's based off of fact. So I think there is some truth to it. Like they use, who knows, like maybe those sensors have like motion capture, and so they can use that like initial movement and then kind of like go from there. But I do think that both visuals potentially are fake.
They're AI generated images. This is what everyone was fearing about AI coming into control, because then you can get things like the silo that trick our brains that we need to be underground.
I don't know anything about the book series. My brother-in-law has read the books. And so I don't know like how old are these books?
I
You
don't
know,
know.
like they if they're old enough, they may like we watched Foundation, which was from Isaac Asimov, and he's not a spring chicken as far as authors go. I mean, he's not like a Shakespeare or anything like that, but still, he was ahead of his time with some of his ideas of like AI. When he wrote like I Robot,
Yes.
but was not influenced by the same kind of things that we have going on now. I have no clue what the influence of these books are, like how forward thinking they might be, or if they're just from our time period and are be, like springing from the things we're all dealing with. I am interested in potentially reading them at some point and figuring that out.
We should. We should read the first book and compare it to the first season of Silo.
I'm down.
Let's do it.
Do it. I did have another kind of thing that, and I know I've built on shaky premises before, so I'm not scared to do this. But you mentioned that the silo might be less than 140 years. Like there might be less than 140 years since the uprising, and there might be even less time before that. Who knows what the real timeline is? I kind of feel like uh, Georgia's is it Georgia
The almanac. Yeah.
the person who helped with the fertility. I
Oh
kind of
no,
feel
that's
like
Gloria. Gloria.
Gloria, thank you. Gloria, I feel like Gloria's memories might potentially be real. And if her memories are potentially real, talk about somebody else her age,
Bernard.
Walker.
Oh, and Walker.
Well, yes, Bernard. Bernard may not have his memories wiped. What if there is a truth from Walker's past that's like been kind of taken away by this like memory racing water so that she can't remember why she's afraid to leave?
Hmm.
Because she's afraid to leave, but she hasn't shared a truth with anybody about what, or at least we're not aware of it.
Yeah.
Like, what if there's an experience that she just can't quite put her finger on because she doesn't remember it, but like the deep seated emotions are all there, even if the memory's been suppressed.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I could see
I
that.
I
Walker's
mean,
old enough.
it's built off of like some shaky thoughts, so who knows? And then last but not least, I wanted to, and who knows, maybe this is a sad direction to kind of go, but one thing that I felt was sad but realistic about this world was when Dr. Nichols talked about where his wife took her life and it being something that was worn, and a number of people have done this. It, being somebody from San Diego, there is a spot that a number of people have done that with, like the Coronado Bridge, because it is something that you can do it from where it should be painless, and it like that's like one of those kind of details where that makes it feel a little bit more real. Of this information does get around, people do learn about that, and a number of people will do that from the same kind of spot to remove their pain that they deal with in their lives. And that did feel like a kind of a real moment in this world. Um,
That is fair. It does seem interesting though that like if you think about the silo, right? Like I feel like there's a ton of places that you could theoretically do that from. Like why would there be a special place to do it from in the silo? And it had me kind of
it's literally the highest spot because it's the first floor, right?
well, I
So there's
well,
a spot on the first floor where the like
oh,
the
on the
side is
first
worn.
floor. I was kind of wondering with when he said that, like it did make me even question if she did kill herself and that maybe somebody pushed her up there because they already had a bunch of information on her. they were watching her, they were looking out after her. And to me, I understand that like she was upset that she couldn't have this machine, this magnifying glass to help with like heart defects because she lost her son. But to me, it would seem that like she wouldn't want to abandon Juliet either if she was so passionate about her children. So I am curious if maybe we find out later that maybe she didn't actually kill herself, that she may have been pushed, but up by that spot.
Right. Who knows?
I don't know.
Good episode.
I loved this episode. I felt like we got answers. We got some closure on things.
Yeah.
Without asking too many more questions.
Right. And I do still think that we're going to get like that big what the fuck moment at the end of the season that like it's something that the vast majority of people couldn't predict it because it wasn't. I don't think they've necessarily laid down a lot of breadcrumbs for whatever it is that's coming because they don't want. I think they do want it to be a surprise. The way that this like show is keeping things in, I think they want its surprises to always be a surprise.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And it's I've been digging it. I love this episode. I thought, Bernard was great. Like Tim Robbins, his acting in it, just like everything he was saying, Common, how he was in this whole show, like
I've loved Common the whole time. He's such a great portrayal.
Perfect baddie, but like also can do the tender, sweet stuff.
The wild thing is, honestly, there's the differences between like the tender and the intimidating are very subtle. Because he does both of them quietly.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I love that aspect, that both sides can be. I honestly think that makes the intimidating so much more intimidating because he can say something casual and it can just make you wonder. It's a great performance.
Really good.
Tim Robbins in this one, kind of an interesting moment that I noticed was when he's been excited about going through Mayor Johns' liquor collection. He poured himself a drink and then poured it back. This feels like the first time when he really doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And or he like needs to really focus.
Which I did think was interesting when he was questioning Lucas.
Yes.
He poured both of them a drink. He poured Lucas and himself a drink, and he was drinking that drink. But I did think after he poured that out, he was, Juliet's missing, the hard drive's missing, he got the buzz on the keychain, and he's like, maybe drinking is not what I should be doing right now. Like, I should have all my wits about me until we figure this out. And it did make me kind of wonder, like, adding that little sense of realism into this show, like, is he an alcoholic? Like, does he have, like, like this, because the couple times we saw him with Mayor John's stash.
John's knew. John's brought something to him.
Yeah.
She knew that was the way to bribe him.
Yeah, and he just might have this little bit of, like, because, like, every time we saw that he was drinking her stash, he did seem a little bit looser, like, not drunk, but, like, just a little bit looser and a little bit, like, how he carried himself.
It's interesting. I mean, like, once again, I don't think he's at the top of what's going on, which then makes me wonder, like, what's his end game? Is he trying to get there, or is he just a pawn? Like, what is anybody's place in all of this?
Juliet's place is she's just trying to avenge George.
It's wild.
I know. And yeah, every character that we grew to like, like Allison Becker in the first episode, Holston Becker, Deputy Marnes, Mayor Johns, Juliet, Sims and Bernard, just all these people, we don't have like clear intentions on anyone of like why they did what. Why did Holston Becker decide to go outside? Why did Allison decide? We see that cleaning, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything to them.
Do we ever see Sandy again? What
yeah.
What are her intentions? And like that's not even one of the like the big overhanging ones. Like I it's clear that people are still wondering, are Allison and Sheriff Holston actually dead or not? And we don't know what's happened to them. But also, like Sandy was discarded kind of unceremoniously, and she had some pretty big parts in this. So does she come back, or is that it for her? It's tough to tell with the show.
I know, but it's so good. I love this show. This is a good one.
Yeah, I'm digging it. I'm very excited to watch this next episode because I feel like we will get not much, but a lot of excitement. Here's what I'm predicting. A lot of excitement for like the 90% of it.
Okay.
But also not much.
Yes.
Like not much information, resolution, just like balls to the wall excitement, right? And then in that last moment, there's going to be like a big paradigm shift.
I think Sims is going to save Juliet. Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that'll be season 2, but I could see Sims saving Juliet.
I think that's season 2. I think they're potentially like laying the foundation.
But with that, I think our journey has come to an end. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Next week, we will be doing the final episode of Silo. So please come back next Monday and we will have that episode out for you. I'm Mark. This is Sterling.
Thanks.